let me just explain for people briefly. So
I keep saying PR, yeah.
Yeah, so the system we currently have in Canada is a first past the post system. And so whoever gets the most seats in your riding, they become your MP. And then whichever political party gets the most seats, their leader becomes the prime minister.
It's why the Conservatives in the last 2 elections got more votes than the Liberals, but
Right.
because the Liberals were spread out evenly. I remember how I was saying 30% of the vote,
Yes.
the Liberals become very efficient.
Yeah.
That means they're able to win a whole bunch of ridings at just the right number of votes.
Yeah. But when what Frank and I are speaking about now is proportional representation, which, Frank, can you explain that briefly for us?
If you get 5% of the vote,
Yeah.
you get 5% of the seats.
Yeah.
And
What a
there's
concept.
other systems like
Yeah.
mixed member and all this, but at the end of the day, what really matters is that, like, why is it that the Greens in Ontario can get 7-8% of the vote and 2 seats? Why is it that the Greens federally get 2-3% of the vote and they get 1 seat? Why is it that the Bloc gets 8% of the votes and they can sometimes get way more than 8% of the seats,
20
or
seats, yeah.
way less than 8% of the
Right.
seats? Like, why is it that, like, the Liberals can be so efficient with their vote and they can, and Doug Ford gets a majority government with such an efficient vote share, right? It concentrates power. And in a democracy, if we want a real democracy where people's votes actually matter, and going back to what you said before, how do you get people to care? If we had a voting system where
Right.
everybody knew that every single vote mattered,
Do you think
would
there's
show up.
any possibility? I mean, of course, Trudeau tried to do that, campaigned on that in 2015. Like, what do you think it would take for Canada to get there?
The problem with Trudeau's approach was that Trudeau was like, oh yeah, we're doing electoral reform, thinking that he could just like
Do it.
ham fist
Right.
in ranked
Yeah,
ballot, because
yeah.
ranked ballot benefits the Liberals. Right? It's about strategic voting, right? Who is going to rank who the NDP going to rank second? And going to be the Conservatives. Right? So
And same thing if you're conservative, you might be ranking.
you're going to rank the
Liberals
NDP or
second,
hell, even
yeah.
the Greens before
Who
the
knows?
Liberals, right? But like, so the ranked ballot really stands to benefit the Liberals the most, which is why they push for it so hard. If the Liberals really wanted to create a system that would be hard for people to fight back against, they should institute a mixed member system. So we keep all of our MPs, we keep all the ridings the way it is, but instead, in each region or in each province, the vote share will allow you to get some of that proportional representation, and you equalize it a bit.
Right.
If the Liberals really wanted to keep a power structure and create a new system that was more fair, they would have ranked ballot for the local ridings and then do PR straight for either the regions or the provinces. That would allow them to have that efficient vote share at the local level, but it would give more
What do you
power
think
to
it
the
would take
parties.
Canada to get there?
Chaos.
Chaos. Okay.
Yeah, I think if Pierre,
maybe the 2025 kind of flavor of chaos, or different
no,
chaos.
I think if Pierre had won this election, I think if it was a landslide and Pierre won with like the 280 seat majority or whatever that was being projected for him, like at his peak,
a couple months ago.
I think that whenever the next round of elections came up and the Liberals had a shot, they would campaign on it extremely hard and they might go for it. Because Carney is going to win in this landslide.
You don't think we're gonna? Yeah,
right? And
probably not.
Even in Ontario, look at what happened with Doug, right?
Yeah.
There was
I also sidebar. I love that you keep calling him Doug.
well, he's a casual politician.
Sure,
So like, it's not a disrespect
No,
thing, right? If I want to be disrespectful, I'll be disrespectful. But like when there was an NDP MPP, Catherine Fife, out of Waterloo, Kitchener, who it was rumored that she was trying to approach the Greens and the Liberals to talk about how we can maybe not have the parties eat each other's votes, so we could next time more efficiently beat Doug Ford. And I advocated to both the OLP and the ONDP and the Greens, and I said you shouldn't run candidates against each other if you want to beat Doug. If they had done that, they probably could have held him to a minority, which means that he wouldn't have been.
But I think so. When I asked you earlier about like some things the left is getting wrong, like you think there should be more kind of
they're not working
they're eating each other rather than
right. So like when I talked about how like the Liberals are eating the NDP's lunch, right? Wouldn't it be a lot better if they could have shared that?
Yeah.
Like the NDP could have done a much better
they
job
got
of
to
trying to
feast
share.
together.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because like in a winner-take-all system, of course the Liberals are going to do everything in their power to beat down the people who they're sharing votes with, right? But if we had a more collaborative system, or if we tried to work together, we could and they do it in Europe, okay? People are like, oh, but look what happens in Italy. They have elections every like 12 months. Yeah, because Italy is a chaotic mess, okay? Italy would be like that regardless of a PR system.
And also, I mean, as the audience, you guys know what, listening, in my master's degree in public policy, it's this kind of thing that you're left struggling with, where most governments, most political parties are running on a 4-year or less election cycle. And that's great. We should have elections, but it makes it really freaking difficult when you're trying to tackle problems like climate change, like housing, that require more than just 3-4 years of commitments to achieve.
I think here's the best way of looking at it, and climate change is the lens that we should be using when we talk about like the importance of like long-term planning. But I'm just gonna really kind of encapsulate it. So for those of you who are part of the millennial generation like me, you guys remember that when we were growing up in school in Ontario, we were taught that it's so important that we fight for climate justice and we
Right.
enact climate change, not for us.
And that was right in between the lesson on how to roll your skinny jeans and
Yeah, exactly.
but for future generations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We weren't focused on saving us. It was future generations. And what we were taught in school was, oh, well, climate change won't start affecting people until 2100. It is 2025 and the world is on goddamn fire. We are 75 years, way too early for this. My child went through
Hell yeah, bro.
she's 4 years old. Why is it that she lived 25% of her winters without snow?
Yeah.
That is crazy. That is nuts. Climate change is here and it's happening now, but because we have this 4-year cycle where we cannot work together and we cannot put together a consistent strategy that every party can commit to, which they're doing in Europe, so it is possible.
Yeah.
Because we cannot do that in Canada, and because America can't get their goddamn stuff together, because we're so focused on this 4-year cycle,
Yeah.
we cannot plan long term. And it is coming to the point now where because we are so focused on the next 4 years, we are making poor choices. And those poor choices have gone from 2100 being the doomsday to right now being the freaking doomsday. And it is only getting worse. So we need that long-term planning and we need that consistency of government. Here's one more example, because I'm word vomiting at you, but this is super.
I love it. Period, Frank. Get him.
a great way of thinking about it. Okay. In Germany, for like the last 10 elections, they have had coalition governments. And the crazy thing about that is that you get like the Christian Democrats, who are actually like their conservative party, working with the left-wing party or working with the center-left party or whatever. And in every single election, what has happened is that one of the two parties in the coalition has stayed on and found a new coalition party to lead with,
Right.
which means that technically, since Germany has been founded in the 90s, like modern Germany, there has been consistency in their government. One of the two parties that has been in a coalition has continued into the next cycle, even if it's changed the other partner.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's consistency
There's a bit of
there.
institutional memory and longevity and like how you can
Right.
plan and function.
And
Yeah.
so that really allows for a country to really think in the long term. And like, I know that people don't like when we say anything nice about China, because right now we are in a bit of a war with China, even if China's up against the States, China is trying to economically take over. Right. And so we do have to have our backs up, but what China does is they think in 100 years, right? And that is why they are able to now take so much away from the West in terms of like green tech.
Right.
And that should have been us. Canada should have been a global leader on green tech.
But
we
so-
let China just take that over.
So China can plan in 100 years because there are no elections.
Right. Well, they do have elections, but there's one party.
Yeah.
But even like Japan, right? Japan has basically only had one party ruling for the last 50 years, something crazy like that. And it's not that they can't have other parties. It's just that they are really stuck to this one party. But because they have that one party, they can plan into the future. But the other side of that coin is that they have a democratically elected government, but because it's one party that's constantly getting elected, they keep making the same mistakes. And so they're having a demographic crisis. So there are two sides to every story, right? Like China might be really good at investing government funds into these private corporations that allow for them to take over specific industries like green tech or this and that or whatever. But they also have that same issue where because they are so focused on their goals, they are leaving behind a whole subsection of people in China who do not get the advancement in the economic development that everyone else gets. So I'm not saying that one thing is better than the other, but the world's complicated, okay?